Okay, welcome back to this last session of our preceptors workshop. Okay. At this very moment, my mind is in great turbulence. It's like a calm pond is that water tank. There are so many bubbles everywhere. So my whole system is like that. I was fine up until meditation, but then our sisters and brothers come up with their little subtle points. My wife, my son, my business, and my center, and please bless my this. My soul is sick, and you have to listen to everybody in half hour or less than that, and we can't be rude. So what happens? On one side, you are contemplating what is next in your preceptor workshop. At the same time, you are paying attention to them. Third thing, you are signing the books where some other work happens. So I think we lose track. Especially, I'm not a Superman who can work in multiple channels. It actually destabilizes me tremendously. I'm still trying to regain my thoughts on how to proceed with this. But there were some questions on yatra that we can begin yatra at point one, how to do it on 2 and 3 and 4. It's the same thing. Just the direction, the clockwise movement changes. I'll just show it to you just for, I'll try. If we are working on this point one, point two, point three, I'm just making it bigger so you can see the. And Babuji has put it like this, and he calls it this is that. And he designates this point P here, and then goes over like this, slowly. And this is to be completed in an hour, but I request you to finish it in 2 hours. Here the equation changes. Here this is L, the P is here. This is going this way, so let this go this way. And this thing is replicated over here the same way. The P is going in this direction. Power. And on the fourth point, it changes its own direction. That's it.
So, start this not on each point.
So that is one aspect of it, you see. At each point, as you must have read it, journey doesn't start on its own. Somebody has to trigger it. Earlier, master used to say only master can do it. Some preceptors, especially full preceptors, would be given permission to do it. You try it, see how successful you are and how Abhyasis responds to you. After trying it, even if the Abhyasi doesn't move, nothing is lost because they will see master in future. That whatever work you have done will never go waste anyway. So you try it. Now, the confusion people still have about Chitta Lake. And it just amazes me how you can have confusion. Chitta Lake from where the thoughts descend into the heart, right? Chitta Lake provides a fuel for your heart to entertain thoughts. Look at it that way. But now we are trying to divert this fuel and pouring it into another furnace called Atma Chakra. Imagine it that way. So instead of heart responding, Atma Chakra will dissolve them. That's another way of putting it. Our idea is to divert the descending thought currents from the Chitta Lake, divert it to the Atma Chakra. That is that. In order to do this, we are cleaning the Chitta Lake. To clean the Chitta Lake, you have to clean the toe. That's why we are allowing the currents from the Absolute, from the source to descend, so that limb cleaning method can be applied. Also, heart is involved and Atma Chakra is involved. So you need to clean the both sides as well. Prepare the person. So you might like to devote one sitting only to do cleaning and call the person again, if possible in the evening or next day. So third thing, we have already been doing it quite often, regularly, A and B. So this, I think, with all that, I think the agenda for this workshop, to my mind, it ends. So if you like to still wrestle with it, you can wrestle.
Master, that diagram, I think point 2 and 4, the upper and lower are marked incorrectly, I think.
Should the L be on top?
Yes, it's just change it that way, yes.
Because they are taking the picture and,
It's okay, it's all right. It's okay. Because what is upper in one becomes lower in the second, see? And this whole axis will also change.
So we talked about journey in each chakra, but what about the movement between one point to the second point? And that also preceptor can do?
They need to do the cleaning. See, before you move the person, the first journey, first yatra is within the chakra itself. You see? Without this impetus from our side, journey cannot begin. So we begin the journey by charging the point P in the heart or on the first point, creating the field and allowing it to move. So there is a journey within the point. Now we are moving to another continent, second point. So what do? We clean this heart. The passage between 1 and 2 is also cleaned. I'm not going into all these details because so much is described by our master in second volume of Preceptor's workshop. So the path has to be cleaned. This field has to be prepared. And then once it reaches there, just create the force there and start the anti-clockwise movement this way.
But we are permitted to do that also, right?
Yes, right. As I said, what can go wrong? You'll have to be very observant, very still, very quiet, very confident, and very courageous. You will need all kinds of fearlessness in this work.
Master, I have two questions. Um, well, the first one is, how do you know when a person is ready to start yatra? And also, how can you tell if it's already started? And my second question is that many times over a long time, I've heard the different masters talk about the use of the will in preceptor work, but I don't exactly know what it means, so I was hoping that perhaps you could give us some examples.
Thank you. When an abhyasi comes in our life, we have seen hundreds, thousands of abhyasis entering our life so far, I think. And each one has a character, quality. If you go back and how they all started and how we developed relationship over the years, it tells us a lot. This study is very important. See. In the very first meeting itself, we know the worth of a person, actually. We also know intuitively, though we hope that he would continue, that this guy is not going to survive. We know that too. So in such cases, don't start the yatra. When in doubt, don't trigger the actions. When your heart is completely satisfied after a few months, that he's drawing a lot of transmission from you, he's so eager, his interest will be reflected the way he interacts with other abhyasis in us, the way he talks about master, the way he talks about literature. These are the external symptoms of the inner state. When we give sitting also, the most profound thing would be how they take transmission from us. They are thirsty souls. They pull it. So these are the candidates. There are candidates where it's a marathon. I mean, not marathon, but it's upward battle. I mean, you're upward or hill running. It's very difficult. And they tire you all the time. The moment you give sitting, my God, okay, you feel like that. But we continue with such cases. As long as they come, we continue. And time comes when they also become devoted at some point. But these qualities are always there, as Babuji puts it in, and Master describes it in My Master, that there are abhyasis, some are like coconuts, hard from outside and softer from inside. And some are like mangoes, softer from outside and hard from inside, see. Now, how to start the yatra of a coconut versus the mango? Both will have to be started. And unless you start and break the outer shell of the coconut, how are you going to start the journey? So that is a tricky thing. How to melt the outer layer of the coconut abhyasi. That depends on us, how we interact with them. See. And we make sure he touches the ground, the holy grounds, meaning he becomes humble. Greater danger is with mangoes abhyasis. They look outer superficially so sweet and nice, but they carry something else inside. But nevertheless, we start the yatra and let the yatra do its job. The abhyasis who appear so hard in the beginning, they are the best ones, you see, to me. It's just initial work. Afterward, they're on their own. It's like a rocket launched and it is there forever. You insult them, you kick them around, they'll be there. But the good guys, every second you'll have high maintenance. Yeah. You have to pamper them, you have to do all kinds of stuff to them. That is a challenge we all face in this. So it's a tricky question, but moment they start drawing transmission from us, beyond we transmitting on our own volition. See, sometimes we are not even transmitting, but the abhyasi comes and sits and transmission flows because of that Abhyasi's presence. So that is another indicator that, okay, let's start this person's journey. So the journey begins at 1. And then you will also get the signal when to start this between 1 and 2, clean the path, and the devotion itself will show, okay, now it is time to move into the 2nd and to the 3rd and to the 4th. And afterward, pray to Master. When they come in touch, come in contact, the magical thing can happen. So far, the work of Yatra has always been done by Master during Bandaras and when they meet in person. Without his work, the Yatra so far was not able to start. And only he was able to do it. We are breaking some rules now, see. They have been, if you may have read this one sentence there where Babuji says Lalaji is, he would like, he uses the word that in his times the journey would be started by Abhyasi themselves. Somehow they would move on their own within the chakra. But now the times are different. He wants me to expedite it and finish this in 1 hour. The orders are different. And the way the things are going, it is only accelerating, see. So, our greater responsibility that we must ensure that the yatra begins within few months itself. Of course, there could be Abhyasis who would be coming to you for donkey's years, but they may not be absorbing because they follow spirituality like a religion. They come out of fear and temptation. They can be avoided. What was your other question? Oh, will. To me, I understand will bit differently. To me, will is interest. How much interested are you in an abhyasi? Okay. So you invest all your interest in it, that may my Lord please make this happen. Because you have so much of interest. You're almost pleading with the Lord. See? Okay. Ordinarily, will is understood as something that you use your mental force, your inner thing so much. For example, you want to wake up in the morning. You use your will force, willpower. I got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and meditate. It shows lack of interest. Moment you use this brute force from your mind and say, oh, I got to do this, I got to wake up, it's a brute force. Sahaj Marg is all about subtle force. With what subtlety, with what level of humility you are praying, but with interest. So the danger of, that pushing a person from 1 to 2 and creating a damage would not be there. You're not using a force, you're pleading with the Master so that this can happen. The cleaning can happen because you're interested in Abhyasi's yatra. We are not using the force the way we understand force. With prayer, let's substitute P of power with P of prayer. Okay.
Before giving every sitting, I try to do a cleaning of my own self, like 10 minutes or so. Is there anything specific, or that's just a good cleaning, or anything specific or prefects do their own cleaning?
No. Maybe take a shower also.
Abhiyasi that comes to me a couple of weeks ago talked about a cousin of hers that he's a young fellow and very successful and was diagnosed with a very late stage cancer. And she was very concerned about him and asked me if I could start him on the practice. And I told her, if he talk to him and see if he's interested. So yeah, last night she texted me and said that he is interested. However, he has a very short life left, very terminally ill, and I'm wondering if there is anything that I'm a bit nervous about it. I feel sad about it, and I don't know what do you do anything special in this case? Do you start him on the journey? What do you do?
What would you do if it was your father?
Yes, I would start him on the journey.
So start it.
Master, I had a question. As a person moves along the points, what if he still keeps displaying traits that are associated to points either lower or higher? Is it possible for him to display traits that are associated with certain points, even if he's moving along?
I don't understand you.
Certain traits are associated to certain points. So, for instance, if he moves from 2 to 3, but he still displays certain traits of 2, or he displays
Oh, that is there. That will always be there. Traits, tendencies have nothing to do with our growth. Sometimes, the master in his benevolence puts us in cosmic region. That doesn't mean your A and B are clean. See, you may be still pinching other women. I have seen that too, you see. Then you wonder, why did Master give him such a flight? That's why this, to adjust your external behavior and conduct. Without this fails. Though the gift has been given, it drags you down, see.
Marg, you had said to take 2 hours to do the journey for each point. Can you technically say what you mean? Because the satsang will go, the sitting will last 30 minutes.
But this journey should be started individually in individual sitting. Give sitting for half an hour or 40 minutes. And later on, you can hang around with you. It's a weekend call, right? I just mentioned yesterday. It's a weekend affair, so you can be together. You can be in your place or you can be in the ashram somewhere and mentally work for 2 hours, or whole night is before you. You're sleeping in some other room or you in another room, and then the work can go on. Or the person goes back to his house and keep working. Call him next day for the sitting and give a final touch.
Master, so I think to piggyback on that question, so if somebody goes from point 1 to point 2, we still continue to do the cleaning on all the points, right, when they come for sittings, because, or if there is something to clean.
We do not clean points, we clean the areas surrounding it. You should never clean the points specifically, clean the areas and remove the heaviness that is hovering over that area. Cleaning the point specifically will put Abhyasi in a kind of trouble. As I mentioned yesterday, giving one specific quality a higher precedence will compromise other quality. Like you give somebody a great courage, that can be quite, he can compromise in his behavior. He become too courageous. So courage with wisdom will be a good thing.
Good morning, Kamashi. I'm wondering two things. In addition to the question you answered about working after you've already started, when somebody's here and you're there. I'm supporting a couple of Abhyasis who I've never met. They've never had a face-to-face sitting, but it's going well. And I wonder, can I just do this long distance, and do I need to have agreement and time set like you would do a long distance sitting, or is it something that can be done in absentia?
I think it's wiser to stick to our own lot who is physically in proximity for now, until you master this art of doing this work and reading properly. Then we'll attempt the absentia stuff.
So no pre-arranged also, just face-to-face initially?
For yatra?
Yes.
Yatra only in presence for now. Okay. That's why, even in olden days, even when Babuji had to give us certain approach or some specific work had to be done, he says, it's better this person is in front of me. Same thing with Master. He would not attempt any work long distance. Under very rare circumstances, he would do it.
Master, if you have an Abhyasi and you do point 1 and you do the yatra, and then the next time you see this Abhyasi, you go to point 2, the next point.
It can happen.
How do you know?
You will know it.
You will.
You will. Yeah.
I trust you.
It's like stars, it's glittering. Master gives the example that, all of a sudden you'll see the star glowing there. This is one way of reading that particular point is now active, or the yatra there is beginning, or has begun, or it is in full bloom. See, when you return back, try it on one Abhyasi. Try to study everything. Especially whether the first thing, yatra has begun or not. If it has not begun, let me start. If the yatra had already begun and is now on second or third or fourth, what do I do next? You see? So it's very important that we learn to read. Bye. Why you want to think negative? There are all the chances. Anything can happen. We were in the center once before. No? We managed to come so low.
Master, can we talk about best case scenario if the Abhyasi comes through heartfulness? He is very, very open. She is very, very open. And the things are going well, yeah? So can you, if it will be helpful for the clarity's sake, how do we assist them? If the condition is, or not condition, if they are very open to work with you and things are going well, how would you recommend to work with them in terms of yatra?
The same thing.
What I mean by that is working on, let's say, first point around that area, cleaning, some rough time frame as to how do we do that.
So don't put time frame, put how devotion is developing in them. That's all.
suppose you do 1 point, second point, and once they are on second point, then you will work on third point?
I think that's why Master never talked about these things. I think, I don't know, I'll have to decide whether, what do we do in the second preceptor's workshop? Sometimes you feel very sad seeing all these things. Don't mind me, please. Use your heart, please. And then decide. Sometimes Babuji would end up doing work on a person who has never taken 3 sittings in his life. We are not limited to only the crowd who is in front of us. Sometimes you are traveling in a plane, for example, or in a train. Now I'm creating more chaos by suggesting all these things. So let's just do this much with what we have in front of us. Learn with our regular abhyasis, then upgrade yourself to working with heartfulness people and then with strangers.